flipped on the beat.
Hi, good day. So this video blog is now for the second week of Math 8 first quarter. So sa first week natin, nakagawa ako ng tatlong parts ng video. The first one is, the part 1 is all about common monomial factor. Part 2 is sum and difference of two squares, and part 3 is sum and difference of two cubes. Now, in week 2, we have the continuation of the lesson factoring. But today, meron uli siyang tatlong parts this coming week. The part 1 will be perfect square trinomials. Part 2 is general trinomials. And part 3 is factoring by grouping. Okay, so after the 2 weeks video lessons, I'm planning na magkaroon ng separate video para doon sa mga examples sa factoring na may hirap. Okay, so maghahanap ako ng mga examples ng factoring na may hirap pero kaya ng bata. Okay? Then I will also have separate videos kung saan you will have factoring using factoring involving problem solving or problems involving factoring, something like that. Okay. Now, let's proceed. Okay, so baguhin natin. Ang nailagay ko pala ay general trinomials. So, baguhin natin. Ang topic dapat ay perfect square trinomials. Okay. So, alam ko sa unang part sa mga nakaraan kong video na discuss ko ang perfect squares. Okay. So, magre-recall na lang tayo ng konti. Okay. So, the title is perfect square trinomials. Okay, so we have two different ways kung paano natin kung paano natin iso-solve or ipa-factor yung mga perfect square trinomials. Pero for that, we have a review terms muna. Review muna tayo. Pag sinabi nating trinomials, this is three-term polynomials. Three terms polynomials. So, ibig sabihin, lahat ng given natin ay three terms polynomials. Okay. And lahat ng ating given ay perfect square. Okay. So, recall tayo ng perfect square natin. So, perfect square natin, you have 1 squared. You have 1 times 1. 2 squared, you have 2 times 2. So, this would be 1 and this would be 4. 3 squared, you have 3 times 3. So, you have 9. 4 squared, you have 4 times 4. So, you have 16. 5 squared, you have 5 times 5. So, you have 25. Okay, and so on. So, marami pa tayong perfect square. But to get the perfect square, that is the technique. You have to factor a number into itself. Okay? Now, let's have an example. Let's have our first example of perfect square trinomials. Okay, so if you found my previous video helpful, you can share it and you can download it, and please don't forget to subscribe on my YouTube channel. Okay, so let's have our first example, number 1. So our perfect square trinomial, one of the example will be x squared plus 2x plus 1. Notice that that last term is a perfect square. So what are you going to do if it is perfect square? So you have to factor 1. So you have 1 equals 1 multiplied by 1. And 1 multiplied by 1 is 1. Then you're going to add the factors. So you have 1 plus 1. I-add mo lang yung factors niya. So you have now 2. So 2 will be the sum. And this one will be the product. Yan. Okay. Now, kung tugma ang sum natin at ang product, meaning to say your factors are correct. So, let us factor x squared plus 2x plus 1. You have here 1 multiplied by 1. And you have here x multiplied by x. Then get the pair, get the factors. So you have x plus 1 multiplied by x plus 1. Okay, so this is now our factors for our first example. So ano yung napansin nyo sa examples natin? Anong napansin nyo sa answers? Ma'am, yung answers magkamuka. Okay. So ibig sabihin, pag ang final answer natin parehas, they are perfect squares. Bakit? Ano ba yung factors ng 1? Magkamuka, di ba? Factors ng 4. Magkamukha rin. So therefore, expect natin na sa general trinomials, yung factors na makukuha natin ay magkamukha rin. Okay. Let's have the second approach. So if you have question about this video tutorial, please don't forget to leave a comment. Tumatanggap din ako ng suggestion. If you're going to suggest na yung handwritten, okay lang yon. Tanggap ko yon. Medyo ano ang handwritten ko, medyo messy ng konti. Okay. So let's have the second approach. Still our example. Wait lang. Still our example is x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay. The second approach is by using the algebra tiles. Okay. So in algebra tiles, meron tayong dalawang klase ng algebra tiles. Drawing ko lang ng konti. Yan. So you have here x squared. And dimension is x by x. Then you have here the tiles by algebra tiles. Let me include by algebra tiles. Again. So here you have, the area of rectangle tiles is x. And the dimension of x is 1 by x. Sorry, this would be 1 by x. And the smaller square, the area is 1. And the dimension is 1 by 1. Okay. So ito yung mga positive. Pag negative naman, let me change the color. Pag negative naman, you have here negative x squared. And this would be negative x. And this would be negative 1. Yan. So pag negative yung tiles natin, isa lang diyan ang isa sa mga yan, isa sa dimensions nila ay negative. Okay. So let's say ito negative could be negative x by positive x. Pwedeng ito ay negative 1 by positive x. And this would be negative 1 by positive 1. Okay, so let us start. Okay, in our example, x squared plus 2x plus 1, kung mapapansin nyo, lahat ng terms natin ay positive. So therefore, ang gagamitin nating tiles is yung mga green na tiles. So to represent x squared plus 2x plus 1, all you need is green tiles. Anyway, meron tayong mga downloadable na algebra tiles. You have here x squared plus 2x plus 1. Now, what is the logic behind these algebra tiles? To get the factors of these general trinomials, you have to arrange the algebra tiles into a perfect square. Okay. Kailangan, pag in-arrange mo tong mga tiles na to na kinuha natin, dapat maging perfect square siya. Okay, so let me erase this one. Okay, so sa algebra tiles, pwedeng kayo na mismong teacher ang mag-prepare ng gamit. Kasi minsan, pag yung bata ang pinagdadala natin ng gamit, nakakalimutan nila. So, ang sistema, halimbawa, kung karamihan sa klase, nakalimutang magdala ng gamit, ang tendency, wala silang gagawin sa klase mo. So, since kung wala silang gagawin sa klase mo, tendency, manggugulo sila ngayon ng iba nilang classmate. So, mas maganda, if you're going to do this activity, ikaw magpro-provide ng Xerox sa kanila, tapos, mga bata na lang ang maggugupit. Tapos, grouping siya. Kung marami kang estudyante, 60, hindi advisable na isa-isa bibigyan. Pwede mo siyang gawing by 3, o kaya by group. Yan. O kaya, sa isang group, mag-assign ka ng isang responsible na, na leader. Or mag-a-assign ka kung sino ang magda-download. Yan. Okay. Now, you're going to arrange the tiles into a perfect square. Kailangan magmukha siyang perfect square. So let us arrange. So you have here okay, so arrange natin. Arrange natin yung ating tiles. Okay. So magsiset tayo dito ng parang parameters. So dito natin i-drawing yung ating tiles. Okay, so you have here a tiles x squared. Then isang tiles dito na pahaba. Actually sa bata, trial and error sa kanila. So bibigyan natin sila ng time. So ito yung dalawang pahaba. Ito yung 2x natin. Then you have here the small piece of square. Okay. So closely approximately ganyan po ang itsura. Okay, bakit closely approximately? Kasi yung drawing ko siya curve no, imbis na straight curve na lang. Okay. Now ano yung next step natin? Kaya ako nag-ready nito kasi ito po yung lalagyan ng dimensions. kukunin natin yung dimensions ng nabuo nating perfect square. So, kailangan ang mabuo pong figure natin ay square. Kailangan square ang mabuo nating figure. Okay. Now, get the dimensions. So, sabi natin kanina, ang dimensions nito ay x by x. Ito naman ay 1 by x. So, therefore, kung ito yung nakatapat, this would be plus 1. Tapos, this side, this would be x. So, the dimension here is x plus 1. Dito naman, this would be also x. And this would be 1. So, therefore, the dimensions or the factors are x plus 1 by x plus 1. Okay, question. Question so far? And so these are the two ways in getting the factors of perfect square trinomial. Now let us have more. Let us have more examples. Let us have more examples. Number 2. X squared plus 4x plus 4. Okay, notice that the trinomial is a perfect, the last term is a perfect square trinomial. So the factor should be 2 multiplied by 2. So yan yung ating factors. So pakita natin. So 2 squared, meron kang 2 times 2. Napindot ko lang si Wacom tablet. So meron ka rito 2 times 2 which is 4. Now, tingnan natin kung parehas ng sum. So this would be the product. So let us see kung parehas ng sum. Kung ang sum ay 4, so this would be the sum. So 2 plus 2, that would be 4. So meaning to say your factors are correct. So factor natin, you have x by x. So get the pair. You have now x plus 2 by x plus 2. Okay. Now let us have the algebra tiles. Let us have the algebra tiles. So for algebra tiles, you have x squared plus 4x plus 4. So obviously, lahat ng terms natin ay positive. So lahat ng tiles natin positive. So you have here x squared plus 4x. So apat na rectangle, apat na rectangular tiles plus 4 square tiles. Hindi po siya mukhang rectangle. Hindi po siya mukhang square. Plus 4 square tiles. Okay. So let us get the dimensions. So the goal of this algebra tiles, kapag ina-arrange nyo po sila, dapat ang ma-form po natin ay perfect square. Okay, so let's have this one. So dito x squared. So ito ang x squared natin. So dito dalawa. Dito dalawa. Okay. Dalawa. Yan. So this is nearly perfect square. Nearly or approximately square. Now, the next step will be get the dimensions. Okay, as I said earlier, The dimension of this one, this will be x, and this will be 1. So 1 plus 1, this would be 2. And this one, the dimension of this one is x, and this one will be 2. So 1 plus 1, that would be 2. So therefore, the dimensions are x plus 2 by x plus 2. Okay. Question so far. Wala. Okay, let us have the third example. New. Let's have the third example. Maglagay naman tayo. Possible kayo magamit ang mga negative tiles kasi kanina ang example ni ma'am ay puro positive. So gumamit naman tayo yung mga negative na tiles naman. So let's say you have x squared minus 6x plus 9. Mapapalaban tayo sa drawing. Algebra tiles kasi 9 po yan. Anyway. So we all know that 9 is a perfect square. So possible kanina 4. So gawin naman natin 3 squared. That would be 3 times 3 equals 9. So this would be 3 times 3. But notice, the product is correct. But notice your sum is, the sum is negative 6. What does it mean? Kasi ito, pag inad mo, 3 plus 3, that would be 6. So what would be the correct factor? If this would be negative 6, so it should be negative 3 plus negative 3, that would be negative 6. But 9 is also equal to negative 3 times negative 3. By rule of multiplication of sign numbers, same sign, the product is positive. So this would be positive 9. So ito dapat negative 3 by negative 3. Okay. So factor natin x squared. So you have x by x. So the factors are x minus 3 by x minus 3 by x minus 3. Okay, so that is our factor. Now, pahapyawan ko lang saglit, no? Yung iba pang factors ng perfect square. If you have one square, you have negative 1 times negative 1. That is also positive 1. For 2, hindi pala dapat. Should be negative 1 square. Ayan. Negative 2 square. So this would be negative 2 times negative 2. This would be positive 4. Yan. So connotation, it should be negative 3 square. So this would be negative 3 times negative 3. So this would be positive 9. Okay. Let me emphasize to you a simple concept. Simpleng konsepto lang siya pero malaki ang epekto sa final answer kung hindi natin i-consider. Now, again, pahapyawan ko lang saglit. Let's say negative 1 square. If that is negative 1 square, it means that you have negative times 1 times 1. So that would be negative 1. Unlike if it is negative 1 square, that would be negative 1 times negative 1. That is equivalent to positive 1. Or negative 1 times negative 1. That would be positive 1. Magkaiba po ito. Magkaiba po ang negative 1 square sa negative 1, negative of 1 square. Ito is negative of 1 square. This would be, ulit, wait lang. Ito po is negative of 1 square. Ito naman, samantalang ito, bilog na siya. Samantalang ito, that is square of negative 1. Square of negative 1. Magkaiba po yan. Kapag negative of 1 square, meaning to say you have to get the negative of 1 square. Pagka naman sinabing square of negative 1, squared of negative 1, meaning to say you have to square the negative 1. Ito po yung interpretation nito. Magkaiba po yung proseso nila. Tsaka yung ibig sabihin. Okay? Yan. Kaya 1 square is equivalent to negative 1 times negative 1 or negative 1 times negative 1. Yan. O kaya 1 times 1. Pero yung negative 1 square, same with, ano rin po, same with 2 square. Bawa, 2 square, negative 2 square, that would be negative 2 times 2. Yan. So, this would be negative 4. Yan. Yun po ang pinagkaiba nilang dalawa. Kaya importante meron tayong parenthesis. Then, nilinaw ko lang po. Okay. Let's proceed to algebra tiles of our third example. Third example natin, you have x squared, sorry. That would be minus 6x. Minus 6x. So, meaning to say you're going to use the negative tiles. Minus 6x. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, this would be negative 6x. Plus 9. Plus 9. So, the tiles is positive. So, plus, isa, dalawa, tatlo, apat, 5, 6, 7, 8, siyam. Parang mga nagbibilang lang ng text. Okay, so this would be plus 9. Now, again, your goal is to arrange the tiles. Arrange the tiles into a perfect square. So let us arrange the tiles into a perfect square. So of course, you have here x squared, and you have minus 6x. So minus 6x, you have to arrange the tiles. So pasensya na kung hindi pantay-pantay. Kaya napasabak talaga ako mag-drawing. Anyway, yung figure naman is nearly close. Nearly na close pa. Hindi, medyo malapit-lapit naman sa actual. Okay, so ito naman 9 na algebra tiles, square tiles. Okay, so pag in-arrange nyo siya, dapat perfect square siya. Okay? Now, let us get the dimensions. Let's get the dimensions. Bakit kulay yellow? Yan. Let's get the dimension. So the dimension of this one is x. This would be negative. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. So therefore, this would be 3. So this would be minus 3. Kasi negative to eh. Then this one, the dimension of this one is also x. This one is negative 1, and negative 1. So this would be negative 3. So the dimension is x minus 3 by x minus 3. This one, x minus 3 by x minus 3. Okay. So, question so far. Now, ano ang limitations ng algebra tiles? Meron bang limitations ang algebra tiles? Siyempre meron. Bigay natin yung example kung saan tatamarin kang gumamit ng algebra tiles. Kailan ka tatamarin gumamit ng algebra tiles? Bigay tayo, last example, number 4. Halimbawa, ang example mo, x squared minus 16x plus 64. Meaning to say, pag gumamit ka ng algebra tiles, si 64, gagawa ka ng square tiles na 64. Ang dami nun. Right? Gagawa ka rin ng rectangular tiles na 16. Rectangular na negative. Yan, 16. So, yun ang limitations ng ating algebra tiles. Okay? Pagka malalaki ng number ang given, big sabihin, kaya, oo, mapuproduce mo siya. Yes, mapuproduce. Pero it takes time. Matatagalan kasi you have to arrange the algebra tiles. So, pag malalaki na ang given natin, mas maganda kung gagamitin na natin yung factors ng sum and product natin. I-consider na lang natin yung product at saka yung sum. So, katulad nito, the product is 64. So, possibly you have 8 by 8. But, the sum, your sum is negative 16. So, tignan muna natin bago natin sagutan. So, 64 can be negative 8 times negative 8. So, negative by negative, the product is positive 64. Okay. Or this could be negative square of negative 8. Yan. Square of negative 8. So, therefore, this would be negative 8 and negative 8. So, factor natin, you have x times x. Then pair, you have now x minus 8 by x minus 8. So, ito na ngayon yung product mo. Ayan na ngayon yung dimensions mo, yung factor mo. Yan. So, ito yung limitations lang ng algebra tiles pag malalaki na ang number. And another limitations, you cannot use algebra tiles during the exam. Unless na lang kung yung algebra tiles nasa test paper na nakalagay. Pero kung halimbawa, nagsasagot ka and you have to bring out the algebra tiles, hindi pwede. Kasi baka mamaya mapaghinalaan yung bata or mapaghinalaan ka na nangungodigo. Yan. Okay. So, bakit tinuro yung algebra tiles? Para malaman natin yung concept. The concept behind factoring. Kasi may mga problem tayo, nagagamit tayo ng tiles. Minsan ang problem tungkol sa tiles. Minsan ang problem tungkol sa farm, tungkol sa land, tungkol sa bakod, ganyan. Okay, so magagamit natin siya. Mai-relate natin siya.